Season 1.
Unlike the cartoons of the 80s and early 90s, whose first seasons would be comprised of 50 to 60 episodes, Teen Titans was one of the first shows to have a now more standard 13-episode season, with the currently customary season-long arc, with a few standalone episodes in between. Interestingly enough, the first episode produced for the series, Divide and Conquer, was not the first one aired. Instead, they aired Final Exam first, which sees the Teen Titans take on a team of teen supervillains from the Hive Academy. While I'm usually the first guy to complain when a show is out of order, I feel that this was a wise decision, as Final Exam showcases the Titans and their team dynamic a lot better than Divide and Conquer, which mostly focuses on Robin and Cyborg having a pissing contest. Also, I find it interesting that in the first episode aired, there is a scene that alludes to Robin being killed in battle. Coincidentally, the same thing happened in the Justice League pilot, Secret Origins, only it was Batman that was allegedly killed off. But come on, be honest. Did anyone truly believe that they would kill off Robin in the first episode aired? This was just as weak of a mislead as when they allegedly killed off Aragorn in the second Lord of the Rings movie, when everybody knew that the next film was gonna be called The Return of the King. Now, the episode that made me into a full-blown fan was Switched, in which Raven and Starfire switch bodies, which is your standard sci-fi scenario, but I've never seen it used better than in this episode, as both characters' powers are directly tied to their emotions, which means that our girls must act against character if they are going to control their powers and save the boys from a grisly fate.
The lock. Azeroth, Metreon, Jinzos. Nice work. Success! Nice work.
This episode resonated with me because it showed that this show wasn't just going to be about the jokes, the action sequences, or the villain of the week. It was about developing these great characters and their relationship, and that is the kind of show that I can get behind of. In this season, we got our first ever Classic Titans cameo, in the form of Aqualad, played by none other than Will Wheaton. I love Aqualad's design in this show. Personally, I feel that he has never looked better, and I think the girls agree. Alright, enough making googly eyes at the handsome Atlantean, as it is time for the Teen Titans Strangest Cases. One of the many things that I always admire about this show is how it would always test the limits of how weird and ridiculous it could be, all the while staying in tone with the rest of the series.
Evil beware. We have waffles.
Our first outing into the world of wacky weirdness is Detention, which sees the Titans kidnapped by the posh British baddie Mad Mod, who plans to brainwash them all into compliant little drones. Interesting fact, Mad Mod is played by none other than the legendary Malcolm McDowell, an actor who knows a thing or two about being brainwashed. This is a detail that this particular fanboy appreciates greatly. Now, what's so weird about this episode? Well, instead of using his magic hypno screen to just brainwash the Titans, Mod finds it necessary to bring them to a private school themed funhouse full of death traps. Now, is all this shit really necessary? No, but it makes for a fun episode, and you have to give Mod an A for showmanship.
Where did our captor send you? Jim.
Alright, let's talk about Season 1's arc. In their first outing, the Titans discover that one villain is responsible for all the major super crimes in their city, Deathstroke. Robin becomes deeply obsessed with catching Deathstroke, as he sees it as a rite of passage, his first big opportunity to prove himself as a solo crime fighter, even to the point of hurting and alienating his teammates. The irony is that it turns out that Deathstroke is just as obsessed with Robin as he is with him. Deathstroke is looking for a protege, a worthy apprentice to take over his crime organization when he is gone, and he feels that Robin is the only one worthy to do so. Deathstroke brilliantly, subtly, and covertly begins corrupting Robin to see things his way, much to Robin's resistance, which leads to some great duels between the two. Their battles are the thing of legends, like Buffy vs. Faith or Kim Possible vs. Shigo. and these fights went on to become one of the major highlights of the show. In the end, Robin must make a choice. What's best for him or what's best for his team? This was a great way to start, as it established what this show does best, using superhero scenarios and concepts as metaphors for real things that young people go through, like betraying your friends and family for the sake of a self-indulgent obsession, when in truth no one achieves anything alone. And there is no better support system than the people who love you.
Whoever Slade is, you and he are similar. Slade did not trust you, and you did not trust us.
Season 2. Season 1 was a complete success, and Cartoon Network quickly ordered 2 more seasons. The Titans start their second outing with one of the greatest episodes in the entire run of the series, How Long is Forever. This is this show's It's a Wonderful Life episode. You know, when one character travels to an alternate timeline or dimension in which they see just how much of a difference they make. Here, we see Starfire accidentally get sent into the future, all the while fighting the time-traveling villain Warp. She finds herself in a future where she was missing for 20 years, and in her absence, the Titans disband. Not only do we get to see Nightwing and his awesome hair,
dude, that is so unfair,
but we also catch our first glimpse of White Witch Raven, which was pretty exciting for me, as well as a lot of fun little nods to The Dark Knight Returns. This season also introduces my favorite villain in the series, Control Freak, played by Alexander Polisky. He is a villainous fanboy with the power to summon all characters and weapons from any works of fiction. I can dig it. Our next classic Titans cameo came in the form of Speedy, played by Mark Irwin, in the episode Winner Take All, which has one of the absolute greatest fight scenes in the entirety of the show. Interesting fact, while Glenn Murakami refused to have the Titans cross over with Justice League, as he felt that if they did so, they would revert back to being sidekicks again, we did get one small weird crossover with Justice League Unlimited, in the episode Patriot Act, where Green Arrow calls for backup, and Crimson Avenger and Speedy show up to help him. But it's not just any version of Speedy, it's the one from Teen Titans. Not only did they use the exact same design from Teen Titans, but Mike Irwin played him in this episode as well. And while we're on the subject of weirdness, the Teen Titans Strangest Cases. The gold medal of weirdness for this season, and for the entirety of the series for that matter, goes to Fractured. Basically, Robin breaks his arm all the while chasing biker villain Johnny Rancid. This injury sidelines him momentarily, and then, well, I can't really describe to you what happens next and do it justice, so I'll just show you.
Yay! I made it! Robin, hi!
Now, those of you who haven't seen this episode are probably staring at this in complete unabashed confusion. I'll do my best to explain, but trust me when I say, it's not easy. This, thing is Larry the Titan. He is an all-powerful imp from the 5th dimension, like Mr. Mitzius Pitlick or Batmite. Larry is Robin's biggest fan, who travels to our dimension to fix Robin's broken arm using his reality-altering magic, but accidentally ends up warping all of reality into a Nick Jr. nightmare.
Why does the entire world look like it belongs on my grandma's fridge?
This leads to the most banana balls crazy mindfuck of an episode in the entirety of the show. Just keep an open mind while watching this one, cause this acid trip of an episode is just bizarre enough to give Pendleton Ward a hard-on.
No problem, no problem. If anybody can fix reality, it's my hero, Robin.
what makes you think I can fix it? I don't even understand how we broke it.
Alright, let's talk about the arc. The creators did a fantastic job of laying the groundwork in the first season. For the second season, the kid gloves were off, and they weren't fucking around anymore, as they dove straight into the most celebrated storyline in Titans history, the Judas Contract. Now, a lot of purists hate this season, as it is pretty much the PG version of the Judas Contract, which is a very mature comic book story. In the defense of the show, I feel that it was very bold for them to take on the biggest Titan storyline on their second outing, and they did a really good job of making it suitable for all audiences. But I do sympathize with the comic book fans, and keep in mind, this is coming from someone who is not a fan of the comic. And even I admit that the Judas Contract is one of the greatest comic book storylines ever written. so if you get the chance, check it out. In the TV version, we are introduced to a new potential Titan, Terra, played by the lovely and talented Ashley Johnson. She is a free-spirited tomboy with the power to move the earth, but with a slight difficulty controlling said power. In spite of this, the Titans take her in, not knowing that in actuality Terra is a spy working for Deathstroke, as she is his current apprentice. Robin's betrayal in the first season is nothing compared to Terra's, who tears the team apart physically and emotionally. Nothing showcases this more than the big superpowered brawl between her and Raven, in which Terra manages to get under the skin of the usually emotionally reserved Raven. This is some of the absolute best voiceover work from both Tara Strong and Ashley Johnson, demonstrating their impressive skill of driving a scene without ever being seen.
Come on, Raven. What stings the most? That I tricked you? That I nearly wiped out your team? That everyone liked me better than you? Stop it! Or is it that deep down inside you really believed I was your friend?
I trusted you! We trusted you! We gave you everything and you treated us like dirt!
All in all, this arc may not be as good as the comic, but is still great and worth checking out.
It doesn't matter. When Slade makes his next move, we'll be ready.
And Beast Boy?
He will be all right?
He just needs a little time.
Season 3. No matter what you think of Season 2, you have to admit, it was huge and epic. Unfortunately, it was so huge and so epic that it makes Season 3 look tame by comparison. I'm not saying that Season 3 is bad, it's just not as good as Season 2. The season starts by introducing the biggest conundrum in the show's history, Red X. X is a mysterious anti-hero very much modeled after Speed Racer's Razor X, whose identity is never revealed. All we know is that he mostly only does things for his own self-gain, and he has some kind of an ambiguous connection to Robin. The theories over Red X's true identity are almost as ridiculous and idiotic as the ones about Robin's identity in the first season. They range from Tim Drake to Jason Todd to Damian Al Ghul, and I'll go ahead and tell you, they never ever reveal who it is. Which goes to show, people just love mystery. And while we're in the subject of mystery, this season includes one of my all-time favorite episodes, Haunted. Now, as far as the Titans are concerned, at this point in the show, Deathstroke is deader than disco. In this episode, what appears to be Deathstroke's ghost is haunting Robin and slowly driving the Titans leader to the brink of insanity. The highlight of this episode is Scott Menville's unbelievable performance. We've heard him play the stern collective leader. Here, we get to hear him turn up the crazy dial from 9 to 11.
I know what I saw! I have to stop him. I'm the only one who can. And I'll take down anyone who gets in my way.
And while we're talking about things that are crazy, the Teen Titans Strangest Cases. Bunny Raven or How to Make a Titanimal Disappear.
Oh, you look so cute!
While fighting Mumbo, played by Tom Kenny, the Titans are sucked into Mumbo's hat, which is apparently the gateway to Mumbo's world. There, Mumbo turns the Titans into animals, except for Beast Boy. He's a lamp now.
I do not like being a cat in this hat!
And forces them to be a part of his magic act. Yes, this is just as nuts as it sounds, and I fucking love it. What ensues is a completely uninhibited variety show which plays tribute to Alice in Wonderland, Rocky and Bullwinkle, and The Muppet Show.
What do you get when you cross a magician with a camera?
Hocus focus!
The tension is excellent, as it seems that escape from a world that Mumbo controls is completely impossible, and this one has some of the absolute greatest gags in the entirety of the show.
Let me get this straight. We're inside Mumbo's hat, and Raven's inside Mumbo's hat, inside Mumbo's hat?
Dude, you're making my brain hurt.
Alright, let's talk arc. This is the cyborg-centric season, as we see our favorite Machine Man infiltrate the Hive Academy, under the guise of a supervillain named Stone. Incidentally, Cyborg's real name is Victor Stone, and this is the closest he ever gets to using his real name in the entire show. While at the Hive Academy, Cy meets the villain for this season, Brother Blood, played by John DiMaggio. Yes, his name is Brother Blood. How is this an acceptable name when Deathstroke is allegedly too scary for kids? Anyway, after 2 seasons of Deathstroke being the king of badassness, Brother Blood just seems like a D-list villain. His shtick is that he can control the minds of young people. When he sees that he cannot control Cyborg, he becomes obsessed with figuring out how Cyborg can resist his power. He assumes that it has something to do with Cyborg's cybernetic enhancements. So, in order to prepare for Brother Blood and his mind control army, another team of Titans is established on the East Coast. The team consists of Aqualad, Speedy, Bumblebee, played by Takia Crystal Kama, and a couple of speedsters that were made up for the show, called Mas y Menos, played by Freddy Rodriguez. Cyborg even considers permanently joining the Titans East as their leader, but it all turns out to be an elaborate scheme to capture and dissect Cyborg. Like I said, this season is not bad. I would say it's average. The real highlight of the season was delving into Cyborg's character and further developing him as a standalone hero.
I never got to finish high school because of this. And when I was at the Hive, for a while there, I actually felt normal.
I did not know you before, so to me, you are normal.
Now, before we move on to the last 2 seasons, it is once again time for
Meaningless Fanboy Gripes!
I have a major bone to pick with the covers of this show's DVDs. The first season had Robin in the foreground and the rest of the Titans in the background. Understandable, he is the leader of the team. The second season we had Cyborg in the foreground. Well, this is not really Cyborg's season, but he is second in command, so I get it. For season 3, we had Beast Boy in the foreground. So naturally, one would assume that either Raven or Starfire were going to be on the foreground of season 4. More than likely Raven, since it was her season. But no, instead we got this and this. Really? I know that this was probably a dumb marketing decision, since young boys are more likely to buy this show on DVD and they are less likely to do so if there's a picture of a girl on the cover, which I think is absolute bullshit since when I was a kid I liked plenty of female characters. But they have such a great design scheme going, the DVDs look so uniform. Why break that when you're so close to the end? The last 2 sets don't even look like they belong with the first 3. Consistency, people, that's all I want. And that concludes
Meaningless Fanboy Gripes! Season 4.
After Season 3, the fans were waiting on pins and needles for the show to come back, as the fate of the series at the time was uncertain. Thankfully, the announcement came that Teen Titans would come back for 1 more season. And a lot of us genuinely thought that this was going to be the last one. The season starts with a bang with my all-time favorite standalone episode, 257-494.
Hey, I remember this scene. We're in the first episode of season 4.
Yes, you are right, Cyborg. Control Freak zaps the Titans inside television. What ensues is the coolest and most elaborate chase scene in cartoon history. Along the way, they parody almost everything that you can think of. The Matrix, Star Wars, Dr. Seuss, the Looney Tunes, James Bond, Superman, you name it, they make fun of it. And on top of it all, one great final line.
Well, I guess this whole experience proves it really is bad to watch too much TV.
But truthfully, we only prevailed because Beast Boy watches too much the television.
So there really isn't a lesson here.
Yep, it was all completely meaningless.
Another notably hilarious episode is The Quest, in which Robin takes a sabbatical to become a better martial artist. The rest of the Titans find themselves missing him, especially Starfire. So what do? They all dress up like Robin and pretend to be him. The irony of these 4 superpowered beings fantasizing about being a non-powered one is both touching and funny.
You know, Robins, the mask makes me feel cool too.
Now, the show has always been great about dealing with social issues, but very few episodes handle serious subject matter as well as Troc, which sees the Titans team up with a space hero named Valior, who just so happens to be racist towards Starfire, just because she's a Tamaranian, and he openly uses a derogatory term towards her in front of her teammates.
I don't need any help from a stupid Troc.
This is the episode where Hynden Walsh truly shines.
You do not call me that!
But Valior calls you Troc all the time.
That does not make it right.
What's up? I thought you said it didn't mean anything.
No, I said it means nothing. When Valior calls me Truck, he is saying that I am worthless.
As important as messages about tolerance are, let's try to lighten the mood a bit, as it is once again time for the Teen Titans Strangest Cases. Employee of the Month. In an effort to save money in order to buy a moped, Beast Boy turns his back on his vegetarian roots and accepts a job at a fast food restaurant, which turns out to be a front for an alien invasion, being led by Talking Space Tofu, who wants to steal all the cows from our planet so they can be used as the power supplies on their spaceships.
No, this is just a plain old Earth cow, and it's not the pilot. It's the power supply.
And then they're going to replace all the meat on our planet with alien tofu. I got nothing. Watch it for yourself and be your own judge. Let's talk Arc. This is beyond a shadow of a doubt my favorite season, as it deals with the absolute biggest threat the Titans have ever faced, Trigon. Played by Kevin Michael Richardson. Trigon just so happens to be a godlike demon, and Raven's father, who will be reborn when Raven gives birth to him and ends the world. Of course, the giving birth part is played very subtly, but my god was this season huge. The world is about to end, Raven will more than likely die, and right when you think things can't get any worse, guess who Trigon brings back to life? Fuck yeah! It was no wonder most fans thought this was going to be the last season. Hell, the final episode was a three-parter called The End. The shit hits the proverbial fan, as our lowly teenage heroes take on their biggest challenge to date. Questionable alliances are made, and Robin literally has to climb down into hell to find a solution to this dilemma. This would have been a glorious ending for our terrific threat-trouncing teens. They were never going to do anything bigger than this. The show really should have ended here. It really, really should have. But it didn't. And thus we move on to Season 5. The Titans Go Unlimited. Believe me, that sounds a lot better than what we actually got. The real highlight of the season is the episode Go, which finally reveals the origin of the Titans. Yes, they waited to do an origin episode until the final season, which is brilliant, since the episode explains the beginnings of a lot of the quirks and character dynamics that were established in the past 4 seasons.
Yeah, like I'm taking fashion advice from the guy in the goofy mask.
Goofy? My mask is cool, isn't it, Raven? But what about my secret identity?
What secret identity? You're green.
This time around, we finally get one more classic cameo in the form of Wally West, aka Kid Flash, voiced by, believe it or not, Michael Rosenbaum, who also played Wally West in Justice League, but in the future when he takes up the mantle of the Flash, meaning that even if this show took place in the same reality as the rest of the DC animated universe, it would still take place before Justice League. Hell, if you want to get really technical, it truly takes place before Batman the Animated Series, since it takes place before Robin becomes Nightwing, and before he went to college and, wait. What the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, classic cameos. The only member of the original Titans lineup who never truly appeared was Wonder Girl. And boy did the fans bitch about this. Even more so when the creators threw in her picture as part of a montage sequence towards the end of the season. Personally, I think they just did this to drive the fans nuts. And speaking of nuts, the Teen Titans Strangest Cases. Revved up. Some douchebag in a roadster called Ding Dong Daddy, yes, he was an actual character in the comic, steals a mysterious suitcase belonging to Robin, which contains a secret MacGuffin he wants to keep private. Thus, the Titans, along with the majority of the show's villains, race, wacky racist style, in an effort to acquire the red herring suitcase.
This is a waste of time. Let's just fly past him to the finish line and get it over with.
Yes, victory will be ours!
Daddy's code of the road says lions for squares.
Raven, Starfire, report.
We've been grounded. Ding Dong Daddy used some sort of neutralizer beam to bring us down.
What we get is an episode that is heavy on the gags and really, really light on the payoff. Alright, back to the arc. The season opens with the Titans teaming up with Beast Boy's former team, the Doom Patrol, to take down the Brotherhood of Evil. When the Brotherhood sees that there is a whole new generation of heroes standing against them, they decide to regroup, assemble nearly all of the show's villains, and only target young heroes, so they can wipe out the next generation of heroes. So the Titans spend the whole season traveling the world, warning young heroes and recruiting new honorary Titans. This results in a lot of disjointed standalone episodes that were fair at best, some of which don't even feature the Teen Titans, which was an odd choice, considering this was the last season we were going to spend with these characters. I will admit that the final battle between all the young heroes of Earth against the Brotherhood is glorious, and definitely worth sitting through the season to see. Not as good as season 4, but satisfying nonetheless. The show really should have ended here, but it didn't. Instead, we got one more episode. Things change. Fanboys and fangirls, there are people who hate this episode with the most purest of hatreds. There are some who even claim that this is the absolute worst episode in the entire show. What do I think? Well, I'm kind of in the middle. I'll explain in a minute. First, I want to warn all of you that there is a major spoiler ahead. So if you haven't seen this show, especially the second season, please stop the video here and go check it out. You've been warned. Basically, the episode sees the Titans return home from their world tour, only to find that as the title indicated, things changed. Their favorite stores are gone, they've gotten older, etc. They engage a mysterious monster in battle, and then it happens. Beast Boy sees Terra. Here's the spoiler. For all intents and purposes, Terra died at the end of season 2, as she sacrificed herself to stop a major cataclysm from destroying the city. But she loses control of her powers and she turns to stone. And there is no method, scientific, magical, or otherwise, that the Titans can find to bring her back to life. And yet somehow, some way, there she is, alive and well. But wait a minute, that's not Terra. It's just a mild-mannered schoolgirl who just so happens to look like Terra, and is also voiced by Ashley Johnson. Beast Boy goes to the site where the Titans left Terra's remains, only to find them missing. So Beast Boy investigates, and what follows is a 20-minute circle jerk that leads to nothing, answers nothing, concludes nothing, and just adds more confusion to what was a great storyline that seriously should have been left alone. Now, why don't I hate this episode as much as most people? Cause honestly, the episode is not about getting answers. It's about growing up and accepting what you can't explain or control. In the end, Beast Boy comes to terms with Terra's death and moves on. And quite frankly, this episode has most of Greg Sipes' best performances in the entire show.
Here, take this. In case you're in trouble, in case you need me, you can call me anytime. I don't need it, but time's up. Terra.
But on the other hand, I fully and thoroughly sympathize with those of you who hate this episode, cause quite frankly, referencing one of the most popular storylines only to not conclude it in any form or fashion was a pretty dickish move on Glenn Murakami's behalf. So when people say that this episode should burn in hell, I totally get it, and I never raise my voice to defend it. In the end, I still feel that Glenn Murakami gave us countless awesome episodes. So as far as I'm concerned, he earned one bad self-indulgent episode at the end. The show really should have ended here. But it didn't. Its popularity was just too powerful to let it die. Thus came the Titans' final adventure, in the form of a made-for-TV animated movie.
Teen Titans: Trouble in Tokyo.
Now, before I talk about this special, I should mention that the DVD release of Trouble in Tokyo includes the famous Lost episode. Now, what exactly is the Lost episode? This was part of a cross-promotional gimmick between Warner Brothers and Post Cereal. Basically, you'd buy a specially marked box of Post Cereal, and inside the box, you find a super secret code. Then you'd go to Postopia.com, type in the secret code, and then you'd be able to download the Lost episode, which is just a 12-minute short of the Titans fighting Punk Rocket. Now keep in mind, this was circa 2004-2005, back when internet video streaming sucked, especially if you had dial-up, which I did. So watching one 12-minute video took me an hour. I challenge anyone to be that patient or that faithful to anything. Anyway, back to Trouble in Tokyo. Now, the special aired 8 months after the last episode, which, as I stated before, left a lot of unanswered questions. So which storyline were they going to conclude? The fate of Terra? Red X's true identity? The contents of the MacGuffin case? The culprit behind the hallucinogen that made Robin be haunted by Deathstroke? The answer? None of the above! So what is Trouble in Tokyo about? Robin and Starfire getting together? Yeah, they do travel to Tokyo and track down a villain, but for the most part, that's it. While Starfire and Robin's relationship was a fun little subplot, I never felt that it needed a definitive conclusion, let alone an entire animated movie dedicated to it. And to make matters worse, the other three Titans are just pretty much along for the ride, almost like an afterthought. It's not the worst ending, but nowhere near as great as the ending of Season 4. The real standout moment of the special is Beast Boy singing karaoke. Oh yeah, he's big in Japan. Now in this scene, Beast Boy sings some nonsensical lyrics to the Teen Titans theme music. Now for those of you who are wondering why he does this, well, the Teen Titans theme is actually sang by the Japanese pop group Puffy Amiyumi. Every now and then during the opening of an episode, they would play the Japanese dub of the theme song. Now, the casual listener would assume that the Japanese version was a direct translation of the English lyrics. Well, it's not. In fact, other than the words Teen Titans, everything that Ami and Yumi are singing is an insane mess. The song that Beast Boy sings in the special is a word-for-word translation of the Japanese version. Yeah, let that sink in for a moment.
Teen Titans! Earthquakes, lightning, fire, Dad. Grammar, math, science, social studies. There is nothing I am afraid of. Teen Titans, go!
In conclusion, the special may not be the glorious ending that the show deserved, but it is packed with plenty of fun action sequences and side gags, and it is definitely a must-see for any loyal fan of the show.
I love this town.
Character design and animation. Major props to John Suzuki, Derek Wyatt, Brianne Drouard, and Glenn Murakami, who designed all the characters for this show, cause they look fucking awesome. In the beginning, when all the news about the show sounded awful, the thing that kept bringing me back is how great the characters look. To be perfectly honest, I never liked the way the 80s Titans looked. Nothing about them said superhero to me, especially Starfire with her intergalactic hooker look. But in this show, not only do they look like dynamic superheroes, but they look like teens. Short, skinny, and awkward. Except for Sai, but he's a jock. Oh, and I love how Starfire's taller than Robin. Girls develop faster than boys, so this is a little detail that I always appreciated. The animation for the most part is excellent, and is very much to the DCU animation standard, but the little anime moments just look like shit to me. Of all the cool things they could have emulated from anime, why this horseshit? It looks like the animators were celebrating bring your kid to work and let them draw for you day. This crap is just so out of place and distracting. A lot of the same crew from this show is now working on the new Ninja Turtles show. They brought over some of the same little anime bits, but thankfully that show has a slightly better balance when it comes to this stuff. Well, while I'm ranting, I might as well talk about those two other related shows you guys are always asking me to talk about. Let's start with Young Justice. People are still baffled that I don't like this show. Look, I was a big fan of the Young Justice comic, which at its core was always about the relationship between three characters: Robin, Superboy, and Impulse, the brain, the egotist, and the hyperactive dimwit. This hilarious and relatable relationship was never, ever present in the show. The characters were either boring and interchangeable or just flat out annoying. Yes, I agree that the show got better in the second season, but them skipping ahead to a year later without showing us how the characters arrived at their current states of being was just flat out undisciplined writing, and for the most part, a cop-out. With all that said, I totally understand why people like it so much, and I can definitely agree that it's much better than Teen Titans Go. Do I even have to say anything to convince you that this is shit? I mean, look at it. Just look at it. It speaks for itself. To be perfectly honest, I don't have a problem with them making a preschool version of Teen Titans. But here's my issue with this tripe. Why did they use the character roster from Glenn Murakami's version? There are plenty of Titans to choose from. Why not put together their own original roster? And why use the character designs from Murakami's version? And the same voice cast? And the catchphrase? because they were hoping to trick us into watching this shit. I can say without a doubt that this is the absolute worst show ever produced by DC Animated. It makes Legion of Superheroes look like Batman the Animated Series. But the joke's on us, cause while Beware of the Batman will more than likely be cancelled in 2 more episodes, this steamy pile will be getting a 2nd season. Well, at least the cast that we know and love will be getting more paychecks.
Final verdict.
Before I close this out, I have to once again give plenty of love to the queen of voiceover direction, Miss Andrea Romano, without whom none of the great vocal performances that I have praised during this video would have been possible. The woman has enough Emmys to start her own chess set, and she deserves every one. While this series lacked the epic grandeur of Justice League, it made up for its lack of scale with plenty of heart, unique scenarios, fearless storytelling, and some of the absolute greatest characters in all of animation. Yes, I can safely say that there are no bad characters in Teen Titans. Wish I could say the same about Buffy. This show gave me a deeper appreciation for the comic, which I lacked for most of my life. And thanks to it, I actually went back and checked out some of the issues, and I have to admit, they're not bad. But with all due respect, when I think of the Titans, this show is the first thing that I picture. 10 points on the badassitude meter! Get yourself some pizza and tofu eggs and give it a watch. Join the Legion, suckers!
Identify yourselves.
You don't need to see our identification. Worth the shot! Go!